Using a pile of corpses to argue your point to the authorities has to rank as one of the strangest PR campaigns in recent memory. In an unusual public appeal for ammunition for his Ukrainian fighters, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Russian mercenary group Wagner, appears to have done just that this week. On the eve of the anniversary of the complete invasion of Ukraine, he has also harshly exposed his ongoing dispute with the military leadership of Russia. A picture that Prigozhin shared on Telegram on Wednesday showed several dozen dead Wagner fighters piled up in a courtyard. Along with that horrifying image, he also shared a picture of Wagner's official request for more ammunition, placing full responsibility for the loss of one of those lives at the feet of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Prigozhin declared, "This is one of the gathering places for the dead. These are the men who perished yesterday as a result of what the Russian MOD called shell starvation. They ought to have been 5 times more scarce. Therefore, mothers, wives, and kids will receive their bodies." Evidently, the message reached someone. Prigozhin announced that a shipment of ammunition was on its way to his forces in a message and voice note on Thursday. He stated, "Today at 6 a.m., local time, it was reported that ammunition shipment begins. The train has probably already gotten moving. The primary papers, so we're told, have already been signed." What was the purpose of this horrifying spectacle? Prigozhin already has a track record of cruelty and callousness. He visited a morgue filled with body bags of dead Wagner soldiers toward the end of last year, around the New Year's holiday, many of whom had been recruited from prisons with the promise of amnesty. He deadpanned, "Their contracts are over. They are returning home." However, Prigozhin's most recent antics seem to up the ante in the oligarch's conflict with Sergei Shoigu, the defense establishment in Russia, and other officials. Prigozhin was a shady character prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Wagner's activities were well known. The mercenaries had taken part in training missions in the Central African Republic and on battlefields in Libya and Syria. However, the Russian government largely denied its existence. Wagner soldiers described the horrors of combat in eastern Ukraine as they struggled just to survive. All of that changed when the Russian military suffered humiliating defeats in the Ukrainian conflict. Wagner's efforts to secure some territorial gains, particularly in the battles raging around the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, were openly credited by Prigozhin, a cunning political entrepreneur without any official government positions. He even started to admit that he had founded the internet research agency, the notorious Street Petersburg troll farm that the US government had sanctioned for meddling in American elections, which played a part in Russian efforts to influence the 2016 US presidential election. His sudden ascent sparked rumors of potential elite factionalism in Moscow, as Russia's military campaign in Ukraine faltered. Shoigu, who had disagreements with the businessman over military contracts given to and then taken from one of the oligarch's enterprises, has been one of Prigozhin's main competitors. In a recent recording, Prigozhin lashed out at unnamed functionaries, who have breakfast, lunch, and dinner on golden dishes, and send your daughters, granddaughters, and wovers to vacation in Dubai, showing no shame at all, at the very same time that Russian soldiers are dying at the front. This was probably a dig at Shoigu. There is no obvious successor for Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has become a distant and alone figure since the COVID-19 pandemic. Some political insiders theorize that an opportunistic upstart, like Prigozhin, might see an opportunity or chance to establish a power base independent of Putin. Prior to February 24, 2022, when open criticism of the defense leadership by a military contractor would not have been tolerated, Prigozhin's outbursts would have been unthinkable. Prigozhin escalated his dispute with Shoigu and Gen. Valery Gerasimov, the head of the Russian General Staff, earlier this week by calling them treasonous for allegedly failing to aid and supply the Wagner Group in Ukraine. According to a recording made by Prigozhin and shared by his press office on Telegram, the chief of the General Staff and the Minister of Defense are issuing orders left and right that the Wagner PMC should not receive ammunition, and they are also not helping with air transport. At this point, when Wagner PMC is fighting for Bakhmut and losing hundreds of fighters every day, this can be equated to high treason. Not all of Prigozhin's claims can be taken at face value. After all, this is the man who contributed to funding one of Russia's most infamous disinformation campaigns. The complaints about the lack of ammunition also raise a number of questions about the precise nature of Wagner's relationship to the Russian military, how its formations are supplied with equipment, and many other things. Despite perceptions of the Wagner Group as an independent paramilitary organization, Wagner's branding, communications, and operations are deeply entwined with the Kremlin, President Vladimir Putin, Putin's oligarch allies, and the Russian military, wrote Candice Rondo, director of Future Frontlines at the Washington-based New America think tank, in a recent report. One of the unanswered questions is how precisely Prigozhin conducts business openly, given that mercenary activity is technically against the law in Russia. According to the New America report, organizations like Wagner are part of a cartel-like structure that links them to Putin, the Kremlin, the Russian power ministries, and sizable state-owned businesses. A small number of Russia's paramilitaries operate under a set of laws and executive orders that permit them to perform services on contract to Russian state conglomerates that the Kremlin deems strategic in nature. According to Rondo, even though Russian citizens are prohibited by law from participating as mercenaries in foreign wars. These include Gazprom, Tatneft, Rosneft, and strangest, as well as Russia's state-owned arms company Rostec. Putin's oldest friends from his time as a KGB agent currently serve as the CEOs of all 5 state-owned companies. Through frontmen like Prigozhin, Putin's inner circle is effectively given the power to run the cartel-like organization that many refer to as the Wagner Group today. After such scathing public criticism, it is unclear if the Wagner frontman will continue to be useful to Putin. He hasn't exactly shown any signs of reducing his media campaign. As part of the celebrations for the Russian national holiday Defender of the Fatherland Day, Prigozhin published a video greeting on his Telegram channel on Thursday. In the video, Wagner fighters are claimed to have captured a building in the distance near the center of Bakhmut, according to Prigozhin. "Okay, let's go, or this will be our last greeting," Prigozhin replies sternly.